Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of Unity 2D Tutorials. In this episode we will learn how to integrate the mobile input and also be able to switch between PC and mobile input. Let's dive in. If you have been following the episodes of this series, you have noticed that we're using keyboard inputs. Some people they want to use mobile inputs, which is mainly touch on screens. And it's a bit different from keyboard because on keyboard you click on actual buttons in the physical world, but on mobile you actually click on the screen. So the listening practice is a bit different, but the output is the same. Let's see how it works. Let's open our script of the player, which is Fox, and look at the logic that we have right now. If we scroll into the update or the fixed update as well, this is where the logic of the movement happens. And mainly in the update is the place where we listen for input, whereas fixed updates is where we process that input and present it as a move or etc. Since we want to deal with different inputs of different platforms, it's better to segregate them into different methods. Let's do it like this. Let's have all this stuff, cut it out, make another method, call it void handle PC input, and we will just paste all the stuff inside. And in order to differentiate between different platforms, we will do it manual. So we will have a value in the Fox that we can change on the inspector. An easy way to do this is to have an enum, public enum. Let's call it input type. Let's have first none, then PC, and then mobile. You might need more, it's all up to you, but I'm going to use only these three. And none is basically null, so it's always have to have a null value here. Let's add it in here, call it public input type, it's the same as this one, and we'll call it input type. That's good. So this value will differentiate which input you want to listen to and stop the other one. Again, you can keep them both. I really advise against that because you might want to do specific interactions on specific platforms. And what we can do is look at the update and check that input value. So we're going to go if input type equals PC, we will call handle PC input. But we go else if input type equals mobile, we will do the handle, let's call it handle mobile input. We don't have the method right now, but let's just duplicate this one and change the name to this one. Here we go. So we finished the first step, which is pointing our player to listen into specific inputs. As I said, on mobile, we don't want to be listening on each frame. Instead, we want to listen to an event from a button. For example, we have a button called jump, so when we click on it, we invoke the jump logic. Similarly, when we click left or right, we will invoke the code left or right, also running and etc. So what we will do is we will remove anything that has input actually using the input framework. So let's remove this one here, this one as well, these two, input this one as well, and these two. I'm not going to remove this one here because we need to be sending the Y velocity to the animator either way. Either it's a PC or an Android or iPhone, doesn't matter. Also, we will check the wall check method, see if there's any inputs in here. Yes, there is. So we have this if input like a button jump also listened in here. We can look into taking it outside, but I don't want to ruin the logic, the sequence of the logic, because this thing is getting called both on PC and mobile. We need all this logic, but this part should be only PC. So we can do it like this: if input type equals PC, do this logic. So this will make sure that we have the logic intact in terms of logic and sequence, But if it's PC, you can run this bit. Otherwise, don't run it. That's good. I think we have set up the method in general. Now what we want to do, we want to look at how can we change it from outside. Coming back to the scene, we need to build the UI. So we have movement left and right, we have running, we have jumping, we have crouching. We have these logics only. So let's start by building these UIs. Let's create an empty game object. Let's call it mobile input. It's called UI. First of all, let's make sure that it's stretched fully, and then we will start by building the move one. If you're familiar with playing on mobile, there's always like sort of a circular touchpad where you can swipe left and right, where the player will go left and right. Some of the games, they don't use touchpad, they just use, like if you touch the left side of the screen. This is something I want to present because there are more advanced way of building this stuff by using input touch. I would say it's a bit complicated at the moment as a beginner, so it's better to use UI elements. When you master the UI elements, you can move in further step into the inputs. So let's use an image. Let's look up a circle that we can use. I think this is good enough. Make sure it's all dark, and we don't want it to be opaque. Let's make sure that it's slightly transparent. I think 0.7 is good, maybe 0.6 is good enough. Let's see if this size is good. Let's anchor it at the bottom left. It's gonna look like this. I think we can increase it slightly. Yes, that's good. I would say this is good enough. You can play with it. You can make it bigger, smaller, it doesn't matter. I will call it touchpad. I'll actually move pad. What's gonna happen is we need to record whether you're clicking the right side or the left side. If we have one button or one event trigger, it's not going to work. So what we'll do is we will add another 2 images inside, and I will show you why. We'll make sure that these images will fill the half completely, each half. So let's make sure that this fills the X half of it. So put 0.51, 0.51, and the Y 0 and 1. And let's zero everything out. If you're a bit confused about anchors, it's fine, just follow this setup and you will have the same result. Let's call this one right side, and let's have something here. Make sure that it's dark, or like just transparent, sorry, and add something called event trigger. What is an event trigger? Event trigger is the equivalent of the button on click, but it has more events. It has on click, on down, on up, on enter, on exit, on drag, and etc. It has all these events here. This is very useful for UI elements, which is when we're going to use it also for the moving here. And I want to say that the input, you want to simulate it exactly like the mobile, and think of a mobile not as a PC. And why I'm saying this is you will understand more why we choose what we choose. What we want to make sure of is we want to listen to the touch that the player does, which is similar to the mouse click. So we want to hold in the pointer down and the pointer up. So these two will make sure that whenever we click, we do something, and when we release, we do something else. And we want to modify the horizontal value. And what is the horizontal value? It's the value that is applied in here, taken from the input and applied onto the move. How can we do this? Is by exposing this value here. And to expose it, we use the properties. And property is a common practice in programming that you can expose a private field and then give some conditions to it. We can use the same name but with a capital first letter. So you go ahead, call horizontal value, and we have to use get and set. So get, it gets the value of horizontal, while set, this is when we modify it, it sets the horizontal to the given value. Just write this as it is, and this will make sure that the horizontal value will be a door to access this one here. Let's go back. As soon as we finish, we can add two events in here. They will be empty. Let's drag the fox into both of them because the script of the fox is inside the fox object. So as soon as we click down, we want to modify this value that we just made public. Horizontal value, and let's make it 1. Why 1? Because it's on the horizontal axis, moving right is +1. But if we don't move, or like remove our hand, we want to make sure that it becomes 0. Let's save it, go back to the fox, and make sure that the input is mobile, and let's test it out. You'll see that as soon as I click and remove, the fox will move right. But there's going to be another problem, and the problem is while playing games on the mobile, you don't necessarily need to remove your hand. You will, for example, click and swipe right and then swipe left, so you did not remove your hand, and then this is going to be the issue. If you see, I'm going to click, I'm going to keep clicking, I'm going to remove my hand, and then he's going to keep moving. Here we go. You see, he only goes away when we release, which is not good also because we want to track another thing. What is that thing? Is it's on exit. So on pointer exit, make sure that regardless if we're clicking or not, if we exit this area, we want to reset the value. So we're going to make sure that we call this on pointer exit, and it takes the previous event, which is this one, and it actually does exactly what we want. We want to zero out the input. Another thing I will tell you, because simulating mobile input is a bit annoying. So let's see. So like if I click and remove, and not remove, just go outside the area, he will stop. But if I click remove and come back, nothing happens, which is another problem we have to fix. Is some people might hover left and then right, so we don't want to not move, so we want to move it also. And then we will add another thing called pointer enter. This will work similarly to pointer down. So we have two, I would say, enablers and two disablers. The enablers are down and enter, while the disablers are up and exit. Looking at this now, you will see that everything will work fine as intended. So as soon as I enter it or exit, he will move. And you will find it a bit funny or weird because on computer, if you put your mouse inside, without clicking, he will move, which is exactly what we need, because on a mobile, we don't have a mouse. And then the mouse is basically when we click. So as soon as we click or we click somewhere else and come in, that's when we invoke it. So this will make sure that we cover all the scenarios. Let's duplicate this one, Control D, call it left side. Put it up here and make sure that it's, you can show it this thing here so you can see if it's a proper place. Make sure it's on the left side. Yes, and then we can hide it. On the left side, we want to make sure that the value is -1. So the enablers, we make the -1. Let's see how this works. If everything's fine, we should be moving left and right. That's amazing. So this will simulate exactly our touch, which is brilliant. So we finished up the movement. Now we want to look into the next part, which is, I think, jumping, or it's running. So we will handle running. In the computer, we look at the input of left shift. If it's clicked or not, we disable or enable this value. But in the phone, we just need to do the same thing, but without looking for the input. We only from a button. So we'll do the same thing as we did in here. By exposing it, we will go ahead, make it here, and make sure that the namings will be correct. Is running, and it takes this value and sets that value exactly the same. Oh, it's, by the way, it's boolean, not float. My bad. Let's go back. What we're gonna do, we will make another button here. So we'll start simple. We'll add the image, and I'm gonna use. Yeah, I'll use this one. I'll use this one. Make sure it's 125 by 50 by 40. That's good. Let's call it run button, and we add a text mesh per inside. make sure it's stretched fully inside of it so it doesn't go outside. Make the text black, reduce the size, I think 20 is good, and then align it. Let's call it run. You can make it bold if you want. To make it look nice, we don't want it to be that opaque. Let's make it 0.7. That's fine. And then we want to put it in the bottom right. So we'll use the anchor, make it like this, bring it right and up. And because I like fixed numbers, let's make sure it's 90 by 40. So that's it. What we're going to do is I'm going to copy the events in here because it's easier. Instead of recreating the whole stuff again, we have the enablers, which is point down and point enter, and then you have up and exit. Again, you can change the order however you want by adding and removing stuff. What we want to do is we want to enable the boolean and disable it according to this one. So for the enabler, let's go to Fox is running. That's good. Make it true. And also do it here, is running, true. While these two, up or exit, we will make it false. Keep it false, yes. Here we go. Let's save it and let's play. Sadly, we won't be able to test it as we need because we have only one mouse and then we can't press on two places at the same time. But we can see if the value actually changes. So let's click on the Fox. And we can't see it in here because it's private, but if we click on these three dots and click debug, scroll down, we will see the private values here. And then you will see is running is by default false. But if I hover in, it will be true, false, click and click. So it's working as we need. The next part would be the jumping. So for the jumping, it's slightly easier because we're not changing a value. Rather, we're calling a method. So what we'll make sure is when we click on a button, we call this jump method. To call it, we need to make it public. Let's make it public. Let's go back. And then I'll make another button here. Just duplicate it, call it jump button. And I will put it a bit higher. There we go. And change the text. Oh, by the way, don't forget to rewind this back to normal. Let's call it jump. And in here, we don't really need all this stuff because we don't care about the actual value. We just need to invoke a method. So all we have to do is remove all of them and keep the pointer down and call the method jump. Let's save it and see if it works properly. So if we jump, then we move, you see it's actually working fine. And then we can do the double jump as well. So the jump is working very perfectly. Let's apply the last bit, which is, if I'm not mistaken, crouching. Here we go. So we've done the movement, we've done the running, and then we've done the jump. The only thing left is crouching. It's similar to running. We just modify something called crouch pressed. So let's just copy and paste this in here. Use crouch paste, pressed, and then make sure that the property is capital. Let's go back. And if I copy the run and then put it in here, and let's call it crouch button and name it crouch. All we have to do is change these values from is running to crouch pressed. And I think it will retain the same result. Yeah, it does. So we don't have to change it again. So when we click or enter, the enablers make it true, while the disablers make it false. You might have asked why I didn't put it inside the touchpad. Well, to put it inside the touchpad, we need to use that input touch, which is the more complex way. And since crouching is not stationary, it also moves left and right. We can put it inside or outside of it, but for the simplicity, I'm going to put it outside because to use input the touchpad, it needs a bit more. So let's use the simple approach, and then when you get comfortable with it, you can upgrade it as you want. Let's see how this works. if we hover over this, you see that the fox starts crouching, which is exactly what we need. I guess that's good. You can use other buttons if you want. You can probably move this up in here just to make it look nicer. And I think that's mainly all the stuff. There was a lot of things, but the results is really good. And why I say this, because this is a simple way of applying the movement, but again, when you do it, you can improve it, make it more sophisticated. For example, make another script called input manager, which handles all these stuff. And right now you have this UI always visible, so you can hide it and show it as you want. I'm gonna keep it shown, and I will keep this input here as mobile, but in your version you can keep it this or make it PC, however you want. Well, that's everything. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit the like and subscribe, and hit the comments below if you have any questions. Also to join our Discord channel, which where you'll find a lot of people like you who are seeking help and helping others. As always, good luck, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.